We've got a lot of comments coming in on Lennon Miller. Henry Fulton, Miller will replace Rio next year. This one coming in from this Williamson, quite possibly. My main hope, though, is that we're not in a position to have find replacement for Dies and Maida. Who Davey here says, who drops out for Lennon Miller? He's not better than at least 4 of the current midfield. And just finally, Sammy says Miller is fit. If Miller's fit to start and ready to go, he comes to Celtic. No loans. I mean, do you think it would represent a good bit of business for Celtic?
Yeah, I do, and I don't know why anybody would think it wouldn't. As Bunzy's saying there, the sort of culture of data-driven recruitment has placed him in a really kind of top echelon. Now, the question is, again, Bubbsy alluded to, is somebody going to come in and take a serious punt on him for the sort of money that Celtic would find difficult to well, they wouldn't find it difficult to pay, but they might think it's more than they're willing to pay. But I think it feels like a very natural step in Lennon Miller's progression if he went to Celtic, because, you know, if Bunzy's saying there, and there's no reason to doubt him, English Premier League clubs are taking a look, but they just think that he's not at that stage yet in his development, be it physically or technically. If Lennon Miller goes to Celtic and Brendan Rodgers gets to sprinkle his magic dust on him, his progression in a very short space of time, I think, would be quite dramatic, and he's already really, really good. I think there is something in the Rio Hatate stuff. I think that, I'm not saying Hatate's been agitating, but I think similar to Kyogo, I think that he has maybe intimated that he's done his bit.
Yeah.
And so that would feel like a natural sort of a parting, as opposed to Kyogo going in January, strange. But it would feel as if, you know, if you lose Kyogo, you bring in Lennon Miller. Lennon Miller has the potential to be every bit as good as Rio Hatate, perhaps even better. It could be really something special. And this comes at a really fascinating time, doesn't it, for Scottish football, when we've got these young players coming through in a bit of a group now, and we worried for the international team, for example. Were we about to hit the peak with your Andy Robertsons, your Cal McGregors, but here's this young crop coming through now. You start to look at and think we could have some team for a decade or so if these guys continue to progress. Your Lewis Fergusons, your Billy Gilmores, Lennon Miller, Ben Doak. I mean, it's really promising, really heartening. But yeah, I can't see Lennon Miller staying at Motherwell. Sorry, bad news for Motherwell fans, beyond this summer. I think now's the time, and I think Celtic have been hot on him for a number of months. We all know that. So there will have been conversations going on. He comes from a very good family. Of course, his dad knows his way around a transfer negotiation. So I find it difficult to believe that there's not been conversations already with Brendan Rodgers about how Brendan would see Lennon Miller's progression at Celtic, and how he could take him on to become the player that maybe in a couple of years Premier League sides are saying, oh, he's definitely ready now. In a couple of years, what age he got to be? 20, 21? So
still extremely young.
You've got that phrase, a boy with the world at his feet. Lennon Miller comes into that category right now. If Celtic can get him, I think a fee around about £4 or £5 million would get him. I think that's a big investment in the Scottish player. Motherwell would be satisfied with that kind of sum, I think, unless somebody else comes in and says, we'll give you 12. I think 4 or 5 million seems like a good number. And then you get the potential, when you give Motherwell a nice big slice of the sell-on, you've got the potential to sell him for, you know, who knows, 4 or 5 times that, who knows. Because right now he just looks like a really naturally gifted youngster who is completely destined to go at a really, really high level.
Yeah.
But even if it's Celtic, I mean, that's a really high level. I'm sure this should suit everybody, and it'd give him perhaps a chance to go and and learn Champions League football, get that international experience. If he was to stay a couple of seasons at Celtic and get that in the bag, my God, what are you looking at? You know, in terms of what an English club might be prepared to pay for him.
Definitely.
I think it perfectly fits the Celtic model. I do think that Hatate might be nearing the end of his time in Glasgow. I've reason to believe that. And if you know that, and this is where Celtic surprised us during the January window, that knowing that there was the possibility of selling Kyogo, not a possibility, they chose to sell. But knowing that was on the cards, very surprised that they didn't have the replacement lined up. And I think in this instance, they're not going to make the same mistake. If Hatate is coming to the end of his time in Glasgow, there's your best option.
Yeah.
And I think it's a perfect fit. And also, somebody mentioned, one of the contributors mentioned the other night, Rangers are about to change financially. They'd be crazy if they weren't looking at Lennon Miller.
Aye.
So if you're Celtic, get that deal, get it done,